Hi, welcome to the end of July and my video recapping everything I saw on stage this month. My name is Ethan, I'm a student in the city and I just see a lot of theater. Except this month I actually kind of flopped and only saw 5 things on stage. It's summer, which means no new Broadway openings, and I got pretty sick midway through this month, so that definitely put a hamper on my usual theater maxing life. But the 5 shows I saw were all very interesting off-Broadway works that I hope you will stick around to hear about. Timestamps and shows are in the description, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you've seen a couple of these videos. It helps me out a lot. The first show I saw in July was Jonathan Spector's Birthright at MCC Theater. Birthright is a 3-hour, 20-minute long epic play following a single group of friends across almost 20 years. In the first act, it's 2006, and the group has recently returned from a birthright trip to Israel, basically a way for the state of Israel to educate or indoctrinate young Jewish people by giving them an all-expenses-paid trip to Israel. The next act jumps forward to 2016, then the last is in 2024, 1 year after October 7th. Teddy Bergman directs a cast that includes Zoe Winters, Molly Bernard of Cult of Love, and Eli Gelb of Serio. Birthright is already a very talked about and controversial play by the very nature of its existence. I am going to try and be as balanced as possible, but also like Free Palestine. I personally found Birthright to be a decently anti-Zionist play, and at the very least decidedly not pro-Zionism. It definitely is pro-Judaism, and you could make the argument that a pro-Judaism play is not what we need right now, but I found its depiction of these 6 Jewish Americans very detailed and thorough and moving. The play is ultimately not trying to be about Palestine. It's a study of friendship and why these 6 stay together across all this time. This is helped by the top-notch cast in this play. Zoe Winters and Molly Bernard play the 2 characters with the biggest ideological argument by the end, and they're both absolutely fierce. Zoe Winters especially, I think she succeeded the most in creating a character that clearly changed across the 2 decades, but retained idiosyncrasies and quirks. Teddy Bergman is kind of quickly becoming a director I really trust. I thought his snappy direction of Mother Russia earlier this year was terrific, and he tracks this friendship in Birthright expertly. Spector is a playwright probably most known now for the Tony-winning Eureka Day. I actually thought Birthright was way stronger than Eureka Day, and Birthright also accomplishes Spector's overlying critique of technology in a much sharper and cohesive way in its final act. So yeah, I guess you can count me as a fan of the play Birthright, not the real-life propaganda campaign Birthright. And by the way, I knew Zoe Winters from watching her performance in Brandon Jacobs Jenkins' 2014 play A Nocturne at the New York Public Library archives, and I'm still waiting for my revival of that play. It's what we deserve. The next Saturday, I went to the Perlman Arts Center to see Giulia, the Poison Queen of Palermo, the new musical written by and starring Jennifer Nettles. Jennifer is known for being one half of the country music duo Sugarland, but she's also been dabbling in musical theater, playing Roxy in Chicago and Jenna in Waitress, both on Broadway. Giulia seems to be a real passion project for her. It's a historical story about a woman, Giulia, who becomes a serial killer, I guess, by way of a poison that she distributes to women in abusive relationships with their husbands. Back in 17th century Italy, there were no divorces, so this was her way of helping these women. The forces against Giulia in this musical are the religious cardinale, played by Quentin Earl Darrington, and Christopher M. Ramirez as a devious governor. First off, I want to mention that this was my first time at PAC NYC, and it's low-key wild. Just this huge cube in FIDI with a slit in the bottom corner that you gotta walk up. It's really nice, and a lot of stairs. But as for Giulia, I was a bit mixed on it. Jennifer Nettles describes this show as a poperetta, like opera and pop, which I would definitely agree with. It's completely sung through, and every song is very much a product of a post-Miranda, post-Pasek and Paul, poppy musical theater world. The lyrics are not the best. Last year, I was annoyed when Real Women Have Curves had 2 songs that both talked about rising above everything, flying above everything, and Giulia also has one of these. It's a tired and basic metaphor. The issue is that with a sung-through musical, the music has to be good. But with Giulia, when you just have vague inspirational music with very basic lyrics, you kind of just don't have compelling characters. Jennifer is a very committed performer, but her writing is weak. The most compelling parts of her character and the show come from 2 confessional songs with a father, played by Sam Seamock, where she seems to question her decisions and her place in the church and society, and it's like almost there, but it's 2 songs out of 28. I feel like there are 2 shows inside Giulia. The exciting beltfest that is just more and more and more, and a more introspective portrait of this woman and the society that would drive her to do what she does. Mary Zimmerman's direction and the set design is very serious and definitely trying to lean into the latter, which makes it at odds with a lot of the show. I guess Giulia is a little messy, which makes sense for a world premiere musical, but I really do hope that Jennifer can find a way to clarify her ideas and polish this into a sharper show. On Sunday, I went to Atlantic Theater Company to see The Saviors, the new play by Bubba Weiler and directed by Serio. This is the same team behind Well, I'll Let You Go, which recently had 2 great runs off Broadway. I saw that show last month and thought it was really great, so I was definitely excited to see the next play from them. The Saviors is about 2 teenagers in a small town who serve as altar boys at their local Catholic church. As they're preparing to go to high school and thinking about their futures, they're grappling with a shifting sense of faith and the arrival of a mysterious man who wants to take shelter in their church. I saw The Saviors a bit earlier than I would have preferred, on its 6th preview, I believe. Overall, I had a good time, but I definitely didn't think the production was as interesting or unique as Well, I'll Let You Go. That play was a very simple story, but told with this omniscient narrator, a very minimalist set, and solely through a series of one-on-one conversations. While The Saviors, I kind of walked out and was like, that was a good play. That was a play and it was good. David Zinn's set is a church and it looks like a church. It's also a very neat play in that it's kind of predictable and wraps up all its loose ends cleanly. It had a sort of twist, but I can't even really tell if Bubba intended it to be a twist because it was really, really obvious. Crystal Finn and Stanley Simons play the 2 older figures in the play, and they were both really good. I thought that Stanley was the best, with a very rounded and empathetic performance. I don't really want to judge the 2 actual teenagers' performances, but I guess I thought their awkwardness kinda ended up being endearing by the end. Maybe this play will end up transforming by the end of previews, and I will be excited to read the reviews. Next week, I went to see a new opera adaptation of Shakespeare's The Tempest, composed by Joseph Sommer. To be completely honest, I had never heard of this guy before, or the company that was putting it on, Teatro Grattacielo. I just like opera, and the Met doesn't do anything over the summer, so I was kind of itching to see something. As it turns out, Joseph Sommer is the founder of the Shakespeare concerts in Massachusetts, and he's done quite a few musical works related to the Bard. Just to be clear right off the bat, I did not have an enjoyable time watching The Tempest, and it was 100% due to the direction by Stefanos Koronias. Apparently he wanted to make this show into a fading 1980s film studio with Prospero as the director whose artistic world is falling apart. This overall did not really make sense, and it often felt like the libretto and the staging were fighting against each other. The worst part happened halfway through the second act, and I'm gonna try and paint this picture for you. We're listening to singing, and then the opera stops, the house lights go up, and the actors are like, hey everyone, turn around because the action is gonna continue on the second backstage. This was at La Mama, and we were kind of sitting in the middle of the venue. So everyone gets up, turns their folding chairs around, and we're like, okay, which in and of itself is terrible because any narrative build is ruined and we're completely thrown out of the story. But the opera continues. On the second stage we're all facing, but characters are still singing behind us. What's happening in front of us is some directorial hodgepodge where Prospero is auditioning ensemble members or something. I had no idea, but the subtitles projection just said auditions in progress. It only said that, which meant I had no idea what the characters were singing. So we're watching actors mime out nonsense, all while singers behind us, by the way, are singing nonsense. And this goes on for, I kid you not, 25 minutes. 25 minutes of having no idea what's going on, not even knowing which direction to look. And the gag is that the music during this portion was probably the best of the opera. It's this beautiful female trio, kind of like the nymphs in Strauss's Ariadne of Naxos. The entire production just confused me because this is a world staged premiere. Wouldn't you want the music to take center stage here to show us the prowess of this composer? Instead, the music was swallowed up by a production that just confused. And I paid $60 for this, by the way. Very disappointing and high-key infuriating. The next day, I continued the Shakespeare theme by catching the final performance of Henry VI at the Public Theater. This is the adaptation by the National Asian American Theater Company and has an all-Asian cast. It's also 2 parts. The original Shakespeare is actually split into 3 plays, but for this production, Stephen Brownfried has adapted it for a 2-part experience. So I saw the first part at 1 p.m. and then the second one at 7 p.m. on the same day. Stephen also directed this production. Henry VI is one of Shakespeare's historical plays. It starts with the death of Henry V, leading to his child son to be crowned king. The first part focuses on the French resistance to English rule, helped by Joan of Arc, as well as the inner turmoil within Henry's court, specifically between the Duke of York and Duke of Somerset. In the second part, this rivalry has erupted into full civil war, York ends up taking control of England, and Richard III kills Henry. I don't think many people consider Henry VI one of Shakespeare's best plays, but despite this, I found NAATCO's production very fascinating to watch. It's really interesting just to see how Shakespeare dramatizes this history, even if the end result isn't necessarily a great play. I thought Stephen's adaptation was very well done, and his direction was simple but effective. The action takes place on a traverse stage with what looks like dark gray ashes on one side from Henry's funeral that slowly get kicked around to reveal the blood-red stage underneath. The costumes by 3S4 are very inventive, with these exaggerated silhouettes and puffy pieces. The highlight is definitely the actors, both in their acting and the great fight choreography. Both the king and queen, played by John Norman Schneider and Teresa Avia Lim, are mesmerizing and hold immense power. Micah Q played Joan of Arc, and she was phenomenal. I believe this is one of her first major off-Broadway roles, and I can't wait to see what she gets cast in next. I mean, the entire cast is A+, but I also love Giuliana Solistio, who played Richard. She has such an impish stage presence. She was in NAATCO's production of Cymbeline off-Broadway last year, and she was a standout in that too. I really had a great time with this play, and I will definitely always try and catch a NAATCO production. And that was July. Like I mentioned, this was a lighter month than usual for me, but I'll be seeing a lot more productions in August, with Broadway ramping up going into the fall. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed. It helps me out a lot and motivates me to do more videos. Leave a comment if you saw something I did or saw something else that was good. For now, it's time for me to keep binging Drag Race. I'm actually obsessed.